All right, I think I hacked in. We're on the air? Shh, security's outside. But how's my hair? It's a radio station. Psst, psst. You guys hear about the Beyond the Shadows podcast with Ryan and Scott? You guys into paranormal? What about true crime? How about UFOs and cryptids? We also have mad hauntings. We got security. No, we don't. We're not big enough to need it yet. No, we got security.
Hey, what are you guys doing? Get out of here! Listen to the Beyond the Shadows podcast. Beyond the Shadows!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to You're Creeping Me Out. I'm Maria.
And I'm Jessica.
And today we have some local stories to us that we're going to share. But first, I'm going to share the ghostly glossary of the day from the calendar that you got me, Jessica.
Oh my gosh, cool. I'm excited to hear one.
Jessica got me one of these desk calendars for my birthday, and it has all of the spooky stuff on it. So it's pretty cool.
Lots of spooky stories.
Yeah, like quotes and stories and dad jokes that are funny.
Nice.
But yeah, so this is a word that I have not ever heard of, I don't think.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's basically just a definition of the word. And I could be saying this wrong. But is it apport? A-P-P-O-R-T. Apport? Apport?
That
Apport.
feels right.
Okay.
Apporte? No.
It's a noun, if anybody is curious about that.
Okay.
So it says, although the primary purpose of most seances is to communicate with beings in the spiritual dimension, sometimes entire objects have been reported to cross the barrier between the realms of the living and the dead. Known as apports, these objects range from tiny everyday items like stones or buttons to entire beings like animals or people. Generally, they do not appear any different after their journey, though often the reason for their having crossed over is known only to the spirit contacted in the seance. When that same object then disappears, as sometimes happens, it is known as asportation. Asportation, excuse me.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this before.
It's probably a word that was made up during, like, the Victorian times, I'm going to go ahead and just guess.
Yeah. A phenomena of the vanishing or removal of objects by a spirit and the subsequent reappearance in another location.
Interesting.
Or the second version is an object that a spirit moves or causes to vanish and which subsequently reappears in another location. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
This is absolutely related to one of the stories I have.
Stop. Seriously?
I'm not lying. Yes.
That's kind of weird. What are the chances?
I mean, kind of, unless I'm misinterpreting it, but I kind of think so. What are the odds?
I feel like that's happened to me before. Like, I'll go to look for something and I'll have looked in a spot and it wasn't there. And then like the next day or something, it's in the spot that I looked.
Right.
That's kind of...
You know, funnily enough, that happens in my Outlook email all the time. I go and search for the email for like days. Not there. No trace of ever sending, receiving any sort of email. And suddenly I search. There it is.
And it's right there. Yeah, that's happened to me
there.
Several times.
What the heck? What has Outlook done with...
Honestly, I don't know, because I have the same problem with Outlook, so it must be
universal.
I always thought it was like user error, but I know how to use Outlook, so I feel like
I experienced the same thing.
And also too, Outlook is like, if you don't search the right word, or if you can't remember what the title, like the subject of the email is, you have to be like spot on, and that's really not helpful.
It's funny because I feel like I'm the friggin' queen of remembering keywords in my emails, because I'm like, okay, what did this email have to do with? And then
I'm really bad at it, actually.
Oh my goodness, we've totally gotten off track.
Yeah, we digress. That's okay. Outlook is haunted, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you have some sisters. You have a sister, and you have some stories that she has shared with you to tell today. So we have more.
So I'm going to, one of these stories she told me, well, she's told me all of these stories, but one of these stories she told me just the other day. Yeah. And I was like really shocked because it had just happened, and she had called me right after. She's like, I need to tell you what happened. And so it's the second story I'm going to tell, but I'm going to start out with kind of a starter story, because it sort of gives context to the other stories, the other two stories that she has. Okay. So right before the pandemic, my sister lives in a house. It's kind of like a fixer-upper type house. And so she is often working on it. Yeah, it's older. There's a lot of like upkeep that they have to do to it. So they're frequently like doing different things, especially to the floor. There's been some floor issues that they've been trying to fix. And every couple of years, something with the floor goes wrong. And they have to repair it, or, what have you. So they're really kind of struggling with that. But right before the pandemic, they were my sister and her husband were remodeling their living room, specifically the floor. And they hadn't yet laid down like the vinyl flooring yet. It was just the subfloor that was exposed. So, just complete wood, that was in there, really like base level stuff that they had finished. And they had kind of finished for the day, and had gone to bed. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is correct. My sister said that this was closer to like dusk. So it was like, I don't know, between 3 and probably like 5 or 6 a.m. Still dark outside. They, of course, had gone to bed after working on the flooring, and she was sleeping, and she woke up to hearing really like heavy work boots walking through her house outside of her bedroom. And she was really spooked. I would have been really spooked. But she kind of sat up, and, her dogs, she had 2 dogs and a cat, and all of them, the cat was sleeping with her in the bed and the dogs were in their, little area that they have to kind of sleep in. So they were sleeping in there, not making a peep, but she could hear these footsteps out in the, living room, kitchen area. And so she got up to kind of peek and see who was in the house, and she was too afraid to kind of leave the bedroom, which understandable. But she basically shouted at whoever it was in the house to get out. That's kind of like a common theme with me and my sister, is like, if we hear something that just doesn't sound right and we're like freaked out, we will scream at them to get the heck out. Yeah, like freaking get out of here. Like, we're not messing around. Like, we're the people who scream. So we'll scream at them to get out. And that's exactly what she did. She shouted at whoever it was to get out of the house. After she had done that, after she had shouted at them, there was no response, no movement, nothing. It was just completely silent. So she basically told her husband to go out and investigate and see what it was, since she was too scared to leave the room.
Yeah.
And so he went out and looked in the other rooms and the living room where they had been working, and there was no one out there. And everything that they had left the day before, it was exactly as they had left it that day. So that was kind of just unsettling. But the next day they were up and out, and they were, at the hardware store getting some supplies that they needed, and saw one of her husband's friends' dads at the hardware store. And they told him this story that had happened the night before, because they were still kind of like uneasy about it. And he told them that the first owner of their house had died there. And so my sister kind of started believing, oh my gosh, they likely like stirred up some things by renovating their flooring and their home. So that was kind of the one of the initial moments. I'm certain there are other moments, but they're probably really small. So it's hard to kind of pinpoint, or hard for her to pinpoint what they were. But this was the story that she told me the other day, this next one, where it was within the last week or so. She was walking on her treadmill. My sister is very, very active. She likes to walk. She will go out and, walk on the trails. She'll walk on a treadmill. She has a treadmill at her house. And so she was, walking at, night on her treadmill, like she always does. She walks several miles on it. And she had a mini hairbrush in the cup holder of her treadmill. She'll throw her hair up and whatever. And she was casually walking and watching her videos, because she'll watch like different shows or, YouTube videos and stuff like that. So she was just casually walking and watching her videos. And she said that out of her peripheral vision, she watched her hairbrush lift up out of the cup holder of her treadmill and fall back down.
Oh my God. I think this is the one you told me, or briefly told me.
Yeah. In a completely different position than it was when it was there. She saw it there before. So.
And it wasn't like a hair that was attached to it or something like.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope. She said that she wasn't touching it. She wasn't near it. Nothing had moved. She hadn't the only thing she was doing was walking, and it wasn't moving while she was walking. So Weird. It was just a very creepy, lift it up, dropped it back down, almost as if something was telling her that it was there, just making its presence known, which is just very creepy.
That is unsettling for sure.
Yeah.
Seeing an object move right in front of your face with nobody's around you.
I feel that, because that is creepy as heck.
That is really creepy.
And she had called me right after, and I could hear her and her husband talking about it, because it had just happened. And I'm like, what in the world? She's like, I gotta tell you this.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is just kind of like a series of events that have happened randomly.
That sounds kind of trickstery.
Right. Almost like, I'm here. I just want you to know I'm here.
To me. Yeah.
And so I do have one more story.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
So for context, they have one of those really, those in the older homes, they have those attics that have the ladder to go up, and you have to pull it down to get up in there.
Yep.
Well, they have one of those 15 by 15 attic doors. Here's what I'll say. I don't know whether it's inside her bathroom or outside. I think it's inside, but I can't be for certain.
Okay.
She had finished working out, of course, She's very active. So she had finished working out and she had hopped in the shower. Well, her husband had gotten home shortly after she had gotten in the shower, and he had asked her, while she was in there, he said, "Why is the attic open?" And she panicked and looked up. I think it's in the bathroom, because she said she panicked and she looked up in the bathroom and it had been like open and like moved. The ladder had been moved the whole time she was in the shower. She says she had no idea how that could have happened, how the ladder could have like gotten itself open or like moved in the certain position that it was in. But it's not within reach for anyone but her husband to move. So there was like no way for her to move it. Like she's a little too small for that.
Yeah.
And nobody could reach it without like a ladder. So you would need an actual ladder to even go up there. And she said that the attic is not even big enough for anyone to even go up there easily.
I was going to say, and if I remember correctly, because we had one of these, they are not like they're heavy. They're not like
right.
So it's not going to take like a mouse running across it, opening it,
right,
or like a gust of wind from somewhere.
Exactly. It's not a simple like, okay, I shut the door and it moved or something.
Interesting.
But she said that also. She says that she doesn't believe that, like, without making a huge mess of like dirt and insulation and like all of this, it couldn't have been in the position that it was in. But there was no mess, nothing like that when she had gotten into the shower.
Yeah, like she didn't notice it.
Nope. So that's her experiences. Creepy. I mean, those are pretty big ones that she could remember, but
yeah,
she's certain that she's had other experiences, she says.
I can't wait to hear more.
I know.
Do they use that
when she brings them up?
Yeah, for sure. Do you know if they use that attic space?
They
for anything?
do. Yeah, they do use it, but it's very rare that they use it because of the complication of getting up there and all of that. So, good stuff. I mean, it's fascinating, but
it sounds kind of like, well, if I were her, this would be I would be really interested in the history of the house and the land. So I would be going to like the historical society or the county and trying to figure out stuff. But,
where the house originated, who
lived there. So you could at least find out the guy's name and then you could talk to him.
Yeah.
That would be what I would do.
She lives in an area where it's very wooded. So she like has kind of like woods out back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a spooky sort of situation, like putting it all in context, but whew, I told her I'll think about coming to stay with her, but might have to stay in a hotel or an inn or something.
Yeah. No shit. When you were telling the story about the footsteps, like the boot footsteps, that reminded me, I don't know if I've told this on here, but I had an experience at that house I lived in when we lived back home. And Miggy, my dog, and I both heard it, and we heard it walk from the kitchen into the living room and stop. And our bedroom was right on the other side of the living room. And so it stopped like essentially right before it came to the area where the bedrooms and the bathrooms were. Yeah. And so I got up. Matt was in the garage, and there's no way, even if he had walked in and out, I got up so quickly that I would have seen him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that was wild.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I got the feeling that house just had a male spirit in there, because one time I heard a male's voice.
Really?
Yeah. Again, I don't remember if I've told this on here, but I was getting ready. It was a Saturday morning. I was getting ready for work at the salon, and Matt was sleeping in the room right next to us. But and I thought he said something to me, but it was it didn't make sense, and it was like a mumble, and it was a deep voice, like Matt, like deeper than his voice.
Right.
And it wasn't my dog, and nobody like was at my house or you know, and so I just like peeped in there, and he was sound asleep.
Sound asleep.
So
I
mean, unless he was talking in a different voice in his sleep, I don't know, but it was weird. And like even my sister, I feel like she told me she stayed in our spare room one time and she just got a feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's crazy.
Kind of reminds me of that, like somebody who, you know, lived there for a long time, and it's either like a repeat of their energy from when they lived there, or they're still there, kind of thing.
Yeah,
checking on the house.
I'm
Especially because they're renovating, or they're
right.
like fixing stuff up.
Yep.
And that comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Which I have a story about that today too. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Everything's tying together.
I
don't know. One thing that I'm not aware of, I didn't ask, but I'm not sure if her animals noticed it or if she just noticed it. Because I would be interested to know if her animals noticed it. I'll have to ask her, but I
always say that's how you know it really happens, is if your animals hear it. And if I mean, obviously even if they don't, it could still happen, but it just kind of is like a extra confirmation.
Yeah.
When they hear it.
They're acting different.
Yep. Well, thanks for sharing those. Tell her thank you.
Of course.
We love them, and keep them coming.
Yeah, thanks, sister.
She's our resident ghost storyteller. I love it.
She's a ghost enthusiast as well. She loves the pod, so
yeah, that's great.
Shout out to sister.
At least we have one fan, right?
We've got some, yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, those were good stories. So today I have some fun stuff. This story that I'm going to kind of tell is a local legend here in the area that I live in of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I don't know when, but it's kind of a popular story. And I was telling you a little bit about this when I saw you recently, but I got a book. I'm going to do a little book ASMR for you. Did you hear it?
I can't hear it very well.
Dang it. Okay.
The noise cancellation is really good.
Dang it. Okay. Well, anyway, I bought this book. It's called Ghosts of Grand Rapids, and you can't see it because my background's blurry. But yeah, I bought it on Amazon because I heard it on another podcast that I have listened to, and the author is, it's Nicole Bray and Robert Duchesne with Julie Rathsack.
Nice.
And I think that they write, or one of them has wrote some other haunted local books, whatever. But anyway, this one is basically about all the hauntings in Grand Rapids that we know about, that are popular.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really good. I've been reading it. I'm halfway through. I've got some more to go, so maybe we'll tell some more stories. But on my birthday, which was, a week ago almost, I went to the cemetery that we're going to talk about, and I'll tell you my experience. But this is the story of the Ada Witch, and it's kind of a sad story, but it's good. So,
is it out of Ada, Michigan?
Yes. So this takes place in Ada, Michigan, which is, for anybody local listening, it's about 15 minutes or 20 minutes probably from the downtown area. It's north of downtown, or no, east, like northeast. So, and it's about 15 minutes from my house. So, the Ada Witch is a permanent local folklore among the citizens of this small town. Many people have claimed to spot a chilling female entity, but with little concrete evidence of the woman's name, and it was hard to identify who the spirit truly is. So they've been seeing in the area, they've been seeing an entity that's kind of your run-of-the-mill ghost in a white dress kind of thing. And it's been going on for a long time, like a really long time. So they've been seeing, stuff in the area. I'll kind of just breeze through this a little bit, but the legend goes that a married young woman was having an affair with a local man. They would meet in the woods near her home, which is now a park. And they, would do whatever. The young harlot's husband began to show gross suspicion of his wife's, getaways, and decided to follow her into the woods one day. He came.
That's the recipe for bad news.
I know, right? Maybe just a conversation would have been better, but So he followed her and saw that he was meeting up with a lover. He stopped and kind of watched them for a little bit before he got rather angry and confronted them. He then, according to the legend, kills his wife and then him, her lover. And so they it was kind of like it wasn't an easy, it was kind of a little battle that they were having, but they died, all of them. Wow. I think, in the woods. So she did some digging on this because there's never been any backing, nothing to back this up that's true. It's just a story that somebody likely made up. But historians, journalists, paranormal investigators have been looking for historical evidence of this legend. And then basically no one has been able to come up with any valid facts or evidence. So in 2003, a paranormal enthusiast insisted that they had discovered the identity of the Ada Witch, and her name was Sarah McMillan. This new piece of information spread like wildfire across the internet and within the teenage community. So that's when they began to visit the cemetery to see the witch's grave. And unfortunately, a lot of destruction came to her headstone. So they basically just kind of, broke her headstone, vandalized it essentially, which is sad because it's just somebody just made it up one day. Yeah. And so they had to kind of lock up the graveyard for a while because people just wouldn't quit going in there, and it's a small cemetery, mind you. It's very small.
Right.
But anyway, so several years later, a journalist was able to clear her name, Sarah McMillan. She was not the woman who was the catalyst of the Ada Witch legend. Sarah, in death, was the victim of someone else's search for notoriety. In life, she was a simple young woman, and at the age of 29, she tragically died from typhoid. So, knowing that Sarah was unlikely to be the legendary witch, the author of this book did some digging. And she looked into the woman, Sarah McMillan. They spent a lot of time at the county clerk's office poring over 17 huge books that contain every death in Kent County from 1867 to 1960, which that's a job in itself.
Wow.
We discovered, she says, that Sarah McMillan did not die in Ada Township. We know this because there was no record of her death, only her burial, and that means she died elsewhere and returned home to be buried with her family. We were also able to verify that her husband, Archibald, who died in 1932, is not buried with her. And so those two facts eliminate Sarah as a possible match for the Ada Witch.
Wow.
So the next mission was to find, who did match the legend. And they said in order to accomplish this, we looked for any time 3 people died within 3 days died within days of each other. That limited the search to a trio where the cause of death for each of them was listed as an accidental death, unknown death, or homicide. And basically, they didn't find anything. And there was only a couple records, and there was just a couple men that had some accidental deaths. Nothing crazy like this that was, written down.
Right.
they did. This is sad, and I noticed this when I was there, which I'll get into, but they did have a local tragedy in 1880. They experienced a horrible diphtheria outbreak, which took the lives of many children, and there was one family that lost 6 children in 4 months.
Wow.
Which is really sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, they just didn't find anything that matched. But they do know that Sarah McMillan is not the witch. So they basically got her a new headstone because it was ruined. So she has a nice new headstone, which I'll get into also. But Finley Cemetery is surrounding and the surrounding area continue to be the subject of many reports of paranormal activity. Unexplained blue and green balls of light have been spotted in the cemetery after dark for over a decade. There are a myriad of accounts of a female apparition in a long dress walking down the area's dirt roads. And so just a lot of spooky stuff, and it became a huge crazy legend, and it's not true, but I went there because I've been wanting to go there since I've moved here 6 years ago, and I decided I was going to go. I tried to get Matt to go with me. He's like, no, I'm not going. I'm like, you don't want to go to a haunted cemetery with me? What? So I went, but on the drive there, it honestly reminds me like my house, you obviously know, it's not like super busy, but it's a suburb. So it's, lots of stuff going on and lots of traffic, and 15 minutes up the road, it's like you're up north Michigan, like super far up north is how it felt to me. And I really like Ada. It's a quiet little town. It's cute. It's got like farmlands, and it's really pretty and hilly, and it's just, I like it a lot. And so on the drive, I was like, this is nice. I don't get any bad feelings. Yeah. And then I pull onto the dirt road that takes you to the cemetery. I'm like, oh, this is pretty. And there's this really big, it's like the road is up a hill, and you can look over to my right. I could see just a mile of just really pretty farmland and some houses and some old looking houses, and somebody's building a house right there in the corner. So that's a nice piece of property. But anyway, so I keep driving, and the road's really narrow, and there's not a lot of houses, but there are some, and the trees are really tall and old, and they kind of go over the road a little bit. So, and the leaves are, just coming out. So it's not filled in really. It kind of looks a little, it's early spring, So I keep driving, and I'm like, okay, this is getting a little, if I was driving down this road at night, I would not like it. It would be scary. Yeah. So I kept driving, and I'm like, where is this place? And it's a mile or so down the road. And I'm like, there's a cemetery here. I don't know where this is going to be, because there's houses. Yeah. And they're not super close. They're kind of spread out because it's wooded. And so I pull up, and I'm like, oh, it's right here. And it's really small. It's really small. Wow. And I pull in, and it's there's a house directly behind it. So there's a fence in the cemetery, and there's a house behind it, and then there's a house on both sides, but they're kind of spaced because there's some woods, but they all look, at least the house behind it and the house to the right of it looked newer. So in the last 10 years or so, probably, which I don't know. It's pretty property, but I don't know if I would build my house there. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, I like cemeteries and all, but not that much, I don't think. So anyway, and I took some video and some picture, and I just park and I walk around. I'm like, I have no idea where this where her gravestone is. I don't even remember her name. I couldn't remember it. And I had Googled it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to feel it out. I'm going to walk around and see if I can find it. And I was walking around taking pictures, and then I was walking, because I was in the older part, and I walked over, and I was like, oh, there's stuff on that grave head. I'm like, oh, that's hers. People left little gifts on it. Oh. So I walked over, and I was like, yep, that's it. And
wow.
this could have been coincidence, but the wind picked up when I was over there.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I felt lots of wind come out of nowhere,
Wow.
which I thought was weird. And I had taken a black tourmaline crystal with me for kind of a protection, just because, I don't know, going to a haunted cemetery, and I was, just wanted to be protected. And people had left crystals on her grave and like bracelets and just little knickknacks. And I was like, I feel like I have to put this crystal on that grave. So I did.
Yeah.
And I left it there as a little gift. But yeah, and I kind of just sat around for a minute and looked. It's like there's a big pine tree next to her, so it's kind of covered, and it's a really like pretty area. It's a really pretty grave area. So, and then I was looking around because I noticed more Macmillans buried next to her. So I was like, interesting. There's lots of, I wonder if this is her mom or whatever. And then I walked over on the other side, and these headstones give where they came from, like a little story about them, basically. Like, nowadays they just either put like
the dates and
their name and beloved mom and whatever and her dad, and that's it. But there was one behind them that was really cool. And I'll post some of these pictures on our Instagram because I thought they were interesting. Yeah. But it was essentially, I think it was McNaughton was the last name. And this family came from Scotland. And it says from wherever Scotland on it. And then it says, the husband's buried over here. The wife's name's on the other side. And then their daughter, which their daughter died at a young age too, like 21 or something.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it was interesting because then on a couple graves over was the Macmillan, so it was her family, and they came from Scotland too. And I kind of put I like got the story out of it without even knowing anything about them. And they must have came together like and started their families in Michigan because they were both from the same area. And the dads were around the same age. And then somebody from their family married somebody from Sarah's family. So they were like close. I could tell they were like family friends just from reading their headstones, which I thought was really cool.
That is really cool.
And one of their daughters' names was Ada. So I thought that maybe they started the town, but
oh my gosh,
they didn't. I read some more about it and they didn't, but
that's
Ada
really
was actually
coincidence.
Yeah, I know. Ada was actually a fur trading post area. So like in Grand Rapids, that's how Grand Rapids became Grand Rapids, is the same thing. It was a fur trading post that some guy set up there and turned into a town at some point, and then they went up over on the river in Ada and did the same thing. So they started a little town there, and it eventually became Ada. So interesting history about it. I enjoyed the drive, and so it was cool.
That's a fun little field trip. We'll have to do that together one of these days.
Yeah, it was a pretty day too. I thought the cemetery was really nice, and I also noticed too that a lot of the old graves had like people put fake flowers on them. So I don't know if their family, is doing that, or if people are just leaving flowers on people's graves. But I thought it was cool. Yeah, and nice. So it was nice. A cool little trip.
That's fun.
Yeah. That's why I love cemeteries. I like walking through them.
Yeah, I'm definitely scared of them. I can see that.
Everyone's like, what are you doing for your birthday? I'm like, I'm going to go walk around a haunted cemetery. Oh,
that sounds fun. Enjoy.
Fun. In fact, Sam, she asked me that, and I told her, and she's like, "That is so you."
That is so you.
I'm glad somebody gets it.
Haunted everything. I mean, there's a reason I had a theme for your birthday.
I know, and I loved the theme. It's perfect. Anyway,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I do have some more Grand Rapids spooky stuff, but did you have anything to add at all before I move on?
Not to that, no.
Okay. So this next bit is about a pretty haunted neighborhood here in Grand Rapids, and it's very well known haunted. Like, I found out pretty quickly after moving here that it was haunted. They do tours of this neighborhood, and I've been wanting to go on one for a long time. And I'm going to try to do that this fall. I think they do ghost tours of this neighborhood sometimes too. So I'm going to try to get in there. But anyway, the neighborhood is called Heritage Hill. And it has some dark history. But it also has, so like the more recent dark history, it wasn't like the best neighborhood in like the 70s, I believe. It was kind of, just not a good area to kind of be in. It has since changed. It's a nicer area, and the homes are like big and beautiful and gorgeous. And they've also turned a lot of those homes into apartments, but some people have restored those houses and currently still live in them, but they're known to be haunted. Like, the whole neighborhood's haunted. There was a serial killer in Grand Rapids in the 70s for about 10 years that went on to kill about 10 young women. And I believe, let me just pull up my book here. I believe they finally caught the serial killer in, like, I want to say it was 2011, after they got DNA from somebody, one of the victims. But yeah, so aside from that tragic history, there's this one home in particular that was featured on the show A Haunting, which I didn't know about. I'm going to try and watch the episode. But it was featured on A Haunting in 2012. And I want to say the name of the episode is Dark Dreams is what it's called, in case anybody wants to watch it. Christopher Gibbons. Okay, we're going to start with his name. He was married with 4 children, and they bought a home in the historical district of Heritage Hill in 2004. It had kind of fallen into disrepair, this house. The family bought it to renovate it. And they started to renovate it before they moved in. So basically he would go there, Chris would go there after work and in the evenings and kind of work on the house a little bit, as much as he could. He said he always had a sense that someone or something was in the house with him, and it had a certain pressure to it, which is interesting. An interesting way to put it. Yeah. So like he said, if it was as if it wanted me gone, like it wanted me to leave, as though it owned the space.
Oh, so like a pressure to leave.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So he said on one of his first nights at this house, he shut off the lights and locked the doors. But it was late and he was ready to go home. He said he was also feeling a little uneasy, but he just kind of left, went out to his car to go home. He said after he backed his car out of the driveway, he looked up toward the house and noticed an interior light had come back on in the upstairs bedroom, which that is like one of my biggest fears, is to, when you're leaving your house, like if you look inside and see like a ghost or something. I've always been spooked by that.
Yeah.
So he was like, I shouldn't leave it on, but I'm gonna go. He didn't want to go back in, and he kind of just kept telling himself, you're too tired, just go home. So he said, I understood then, as I do now, something, someone, some energy or force existed within my house, and it felt ownership to it.
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of when it all started. And then they continued to fix it up, and despite their uncertainties about the unseen force, they moved their family in. And he said things started slowly at first with strange feelings and an occasional unexplained tapping noise. By the following fall, however, the haunting had become much more prevalent.
Right.
One of Chris's sons woke up in the middle of the night, glanced around the room with the strange feeling he was not alone. He caught movement out of the corner of his eye and looked over by the window by his opposite of his bed. He said he saw a white face that lingered momentarily and then dissipated.
Wow.
He said he was terrified, but he pulled the blankets closer to him and finally just fell back asleep, which...
Oh my goodness.
I would never have done that. I would have probably screamed.
Right.
And it said the youngest child was first to report seeing a man wearing a suit as he walked down the back hallway one morning before breakfast. Since then, several other individuals have spotted what is believed to be the same male apparition. It is tall, thin, dignified, and approximately in his 40s and dressed in either a white or a black suit. And then one evening, the oldest son, ran into the kitchen where the rest of the family was gathered. He erratically described an encounter he had just had with the resident ghost. He was playing his guitar, and he heard someone clapping behind him in the corner. The clap coincided to the beat of the melody he was playing. He said the boy knew he was not alone and figured one of his siblings was in the next room. So he checked, the rooms, and he realized he was the only person upstairs.
Yeah.
So after that, Chris began to experience very lucid, disturbing dreams. The dreams consisted of extreme paranormal activity occurring right before his eyes. Coincidentally, as Chris's dreams increased in intensity, so did his fears. He said, while the taps, pokes, and rattling doorknobs about the house were, at worst annoying, he said the dreams were the most unsettling. And so he confided in a priest about the odd occurrences taking place, and he continued to tell the priest about his children's experiences and how upset it's made everybody in the home. And he said at the time the priest did little to reassure him.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. He recommended that the family hold a prayer session and insisted that it was the best to ignore the activity in the home. Great advice. Solid advice. The priest refused to visit the home or perform any additional house blessings. And he said that was not the answer he was expecting. So he realized that as far as the situation was concerned, he would have to handle it by himself. So basically, they tried the family prayer group, and that didn't work. And he said he just went upstairs and verbally said, like what you were saying, like you just yell at it and say, stop, like, this is enough. And he said he offered up a compromise that the spirit, could stay in the attic in the back of the house, but the peace needs to return, like leave my family alone.
Right.
And he said that worked for a little while. And then the children were reporting being woken up in the middle of the night to find themselves confronted by that creepy face. Chris also encountered this situation. He said one night while starting to drift to sleep, he suddenly woke up to find a face hovering above him. And he described it to being like a mask, white with pitch black empty spaces for his eyes and mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it didn't stop.
Wow.
And he said one incident in particular was the cause for Chris to end this compromise. He said, in front of friends, his wife retold a horrific experience she had days prior. While in the basement doing laundry, she watched as a spectral scene played out right in front of her eyes. She said she froze. She was frozen. She wasn't able to move. And she saw the vision of a man brutally violating a young girl. So when the event finally ended, she said she ran out of the house. And she didn't say anything until she was in front of friends. And so he was like, he was really mad that this happened to his wife. And he said, it just essentially like he was just nothing's working to get this to come out of my house.
Yeah.
So he even called a shaman, a Native American, shaman to help with this, because there is also a very large Native American history in Grand Rapids as well.
Okay.
And there were battles fought in the area too, as well.
Okay.
So who knows? You know, who knows what's on this land also.
Right.
But, you know, that didn't even help. So, he didn't want to lose this house. I mean, they spent their life savings on this house, and he was kind of just like, I don't know what to do. He was questioning his Catholic beliefs, and so it was just a whole thing. And he said it did help a little bit with the shaman, but it returned. So since the purchase of the home, the induction into the supernatural, Chris had learned ways and gained, more understanding of the ties between his Catholic beliefs and the paranormal, and even wrote a book, which I couldn't find. I guess you could probably go through the publisher, but it's called Trespass.
Okay.
A Haunting. He kind of tells everything in detail and a lot more to it than just what I have explained. But yeah. So he says he still lives with the entity, but it's they live in peace now with it. So, and I believe he still owns the home.
Okay.
And so they do tours, like I said, of the neighborhood, and there's a self-guided walking tour you can do if you live in the area, which I kind of want to do. And then they do guided tours as well.
Right.
So anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just
that would be cool to do, like a walking tour.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to do that. So anyway.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Pretty crazy story. And it's even crazier when it's like happens so close to home. That neighborhood's not far from me at all.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
Pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
I'm going to try and watch the episode.
Do it. Yeah.
That
then
show,
fill us all in.
Yeah. A Haunting, that show, like they do the dramatizations of the experiences that people have, and it can be super corny, but it's worth the watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So, yeah. Lots of spooky stuff here in Grand Rapids. I didn't realize how haunted it was, until kind of living here for a little while.
Yeah, for real.
But there's a lot of stuff downtown, too, that I'm still reading about. But they do ghost tours downtown Grand Rapids as well in the fall. Cool. I think they actually do them year-round, but they're more prevalent in the fall during like Halloween spooky time.
Yeah.
So, pretty cool stuff.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, I have some Lake Huron history that I should bring on the pod. I think we've talked about it before. I haven't yet, but
briefly.
I'll have to look that up and kind of share some of those stories too.
Yeah, for sure. Whatever we can get. I did find one local story on Reddit. It's just a short, quick one that is from the Grand Rapids area as well. It just starts off with, our family first moved here in the late 90s to the home. The previous owners that built the house passed it down to their family for a few generations. And it said, but they did find out that the dad had passed away in the house. And then they had sold the house after that happened. They had sold it to his family.
Okay.
So they moved in the 90s. It says, our family and friends who stayed the night often experienced activity. We used the basement as an extra room. People who stayed down there would say they hear footsteps going down the stairs up from the second floor across the living room and into the bathroom, but never came back out of the bathroom.
Okay.
They assumed it was just the kids, but we swore up and down that it wasn't us. And, this was heard by several people who stayed with us. I'm sure there's more to the story, but it says when my brother's wife came to live with us, she would say she saw fleeting images of a little girl in white. Stereotypical, right? Well, one day my mom was in the kitchen and she says, while at the table, she noticed a little girl in white peek from around the corner. She looked up fast and then it was gone. And then they said they were all out to dinner one night and then these stories came up for the first time between the mom, the sister, and the sister-in-law. So
Oh
the looks
my.
on their faces when they had realized that they had each experienced the same thing while in that house
Oh my gosh.
was crazy. And from then on, we all kept each other in the loop because we knew we weren't crazy. We were all seeing the same stuff. So, and this is
Wow.
a neighborhood near my house too. So it's pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Yikes.
Oh my
Especially,
goodness.
more footsteps. And
So
this
that's
actually,
near your house?
yeah, this
Oh
is
my
a
God.
neighborhood probably like 10 minutes from me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But when they said that they had heard people go into the bathroom but never come out, that
Right.
reminds me of. So, do you remember the salon that I worked at in Clio?
Yes.
So when I first started working there, my coworkers told me they had thought it was haunted, and even my boss was like, "It's haunted." In the basement, and it was, an
Right.
old, building from the
Yeah.
1800s.
Yeah.
And the basement was a Michigan basement, and it was creepy. We did not like going down there, but we had stored stuff down there, so we did have to go down there from time to time. But
Yeah.
creepy basement. Somebody had said that they saw somebody in the building too one time. They were the only ones in there in the morning, like they had just opened up, and they saw a man in the front door, but she hadn't unlocked the door yet, so
Oh my God.
that was weird. And then it was gone. And then this happened when we were all there, and it was like their candle walk that they had or something was going on, and we had people coming in and out, but it had slowed down a little bit, and we were all back, in the area by the bathroom. And that's kind of like there's another entrance over there, so and our back room is right there, so we were kind of gathered over there, and we saw a few of us saw somebody go into the bathroom, and then we had never saw anybody come back out of the bathroom. And we were like, a few of us were waiting for the bathroom, and we were all like, wait, didn't somebody go in there? And we're like, yeah. And so we knocked on the door, and we swore we heard somebody say that they were in there. So we waited even longer, and then we were like, okay, this person, are they okay? And so we got kind of worried.
Yeah.
And we jiggled the door handle, but mind you, none of us had left the area. We were all still standing there, so we had known nobody had come out of the bathroom. Yeah. We jiggled the door and it was unlocked, so one of my coworkers opened it and nobody was in there. We were like, wait a second. Yikes. We all saw somebody go in there.
I'm glad I never had to use the restroom over there.
Oh my gosh, it was such a creepy building. I have been in there a few times by myself, and
wow,
I definitely felt like I was being watched, for sure.
That's wild.
Yeah. Creepy.
I'd be scared, man.
Yeah.
I'd be scared.
Yep. It was weird. But I also was going to tell you, I forgot about this. I had a dream the other night that I was somewhere. In the dream, it was like my house, but it wasn't my house, And it was super haunted. And I was trying to get whatever spirit out.
Okay.
And I don't remember the specifics of what was haunting, but I remember we had a party and we had my family and friends come over.
Okay.
And I was just walking around the house, saging the house and telling the spirit to get out. And everyone was just like, are you all right? What's going on? But in your dream, it's such an intense emotion that you're having about it.
Yes.
That's how I felt. And I was just like, wow. No, you don't understand. This spirit it's come back. It used to be at the other house that we lived in, and now it's here. And I need it to leave now. Sorry I'm doing this when all you are here, but I have to do it. And it was just such a weird dream. I wish I remembered more because I know there was more about it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I woke up what the hell?
That's freaky.
Yeah. So I don't know what that was about.
I'm honestly, I feel fortunate to not have had experienced some of these things because I have periods of time where, I'm laying in bed and sometimes it feels like I'm being watched.
Yeah. You've said that to me before.
And I feel that most often. And the problem is that I have really strong intuition, and it's hard for me to, I feel it all the time that somebody's watching me. So I just try to forget about it, quite honestly.
I wonder if yours is more like a spirit guide or something.
I don't know, but it's all the time.
Or like
especially
a family
at
member.
night. I might just be paranoid. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to distinguish between, okay, is this something like that where it's like, innocent, or is it just, me feeling some, weird. It happens like weekly.
Yeah, okay.
Or every other week. Yeah.
I don't know.
But
your intuition is normally right, so
I don't know. I need to try to figure out a way to channel my intuition a little better, I guess.
Yeah. I think we all need to do that.
Yeah.
Like, is this my brain, or is this for real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely how I feel.
Well, that's all I got for today.
This was a fun episode. We kind of went all over the place. Yeah. Local stories and cemeteries, and that's fun.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It was cool. I'll post some pictures of it, of what I saw and stuff, and the cemetery, and see what else I can find in this book. Yeah, this book is called Ghosts of Grand Rapids, and then they also have there's another book, not by the same author, but there's a book, I believe it's called Haunted Houses in Grand Rapids, but I'll find the specifics of that too and put them in the show notes or something. But
okay, I'm
enjoying this book so far, so
definitely.
If you're a Michigan person, you might enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
You have anything else to add?
I do not. Good stuff today, though. This was enjoyable.
Yep. Got some good stories. So we'd love to hear from you guys too. So send us your family stories, your stories, whatever. We'll take it.
Love to hear more.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Well,
thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Till next time. Bye. Hey everyone, Maria here. Just wanted to say thank you for listening to today's show. As always, we really love hearing all of your weird, creepy experiences that you send us. We really appreciate everybody who's sent us a story, and we have a lot actually lined up still. So please keep sending them in. Tell your friends to send them in. You can email us at ycmopod@gmail.com, or now you can call us at 616-202-1460 and leave your story or experience on our voicemail, and we'll play it on the show. To help our show grow and to bring you the best content, please share, rate, review our podcast. You can follow us on all social media at ycmopod, and we can't wait to hear your story.